Welcome to our presentation, Fostering Perspective Transformation in Third Spaces in Virtual Settings. A few introductions to begin with. I'm Saghar Leslie Naguib, Senior Lecturer of English Language at the Language and Culture Center at Dukunshan University.
Hi everyone, my name is Zhang Xin. I am an Assistant Professor of Chinese and Intercultural Communication from the Language and Culture Center at Dukunshan University. I'm also a co-director of the lab together with Saghar and Emma.
Hi everyone, my name is Emannuelle and I'm an Assistant Professor of Applied Linguistics and Culture at DKU and also a co-director of the Third Space Lab. So we want to start with a little story. A few years back, I moved to the US to pursue a graduate degree. I was offered a position teaching French to undergraduate students. I had lived in the US before as an exchange student, and I thought, traveled extensively, at least compared with my peers. So I thought I knew the US pretty well since I had spent about 4 months in Oklahoma already. So here I am teaching French. My language requirement is waived because my English is supposedly good enough. And I use references to Harry Potter in my French classroom, thinking that Harry Potter is surely a reference that we all have in common, even though I'm slightly older than my students and I come from a different country. So surely Harry Potter is shared by all of us. A few weeks in, a student tells me in front of everyone that she doesn't really know much about Harry Potter because it's evil and witchcraft is forbidden in her family. So I thought she was joking, pulling my leg, mocking the foreign teacher. I had made them believe a lot of idiotic things about France, and I thought that she was doing the same about the US. I had no idea that she wasn't, so I teased her for a few weeks, thinking that I was being clever. Obviously, I was not. I ended up sharing the story with a friend who informed me that some religious communities forbid people from reading Harry Potter, among other books, and that they sometimes prevent public schools from letting students read them. So I thought I knew the US well enough. I thought that my language skills also saved me from embarrassment and ignorance, thinking that they were tantamount to my knowledge of the country and its cultures. And this was the first step in my decision to shut up, but also to more systematically learn about my host cultures. This was disorienting and changed how I interact with people from different cultures, but also how I think about language in general. So the Third Space Lab is, in short, a way of supporting students in the development of the awareness of their ignorance, so they can act upon it and change their perspectives of themselves and of others. And to go back to the theme of our talk, remote learning, virtual learning, imagine how the same story would have gone online on a virtual forum, how awkward that conversation would have been. So now we're going to move on to briefly describing the Third Space Lab.
So a little context about Third Space Lab, and more importantly about Dukunshan University, which houses Third Space Lab. We are an American Sino university, and we collaborate with 2 other universities. We are the sister school of Duke University, Duke in Durham in the United States, in China, and we are also a strong collaborator with Wuhan University as well. These 2 universities are critical to our functioning on campus in Kunshan in China. And also our collaboration extends not just with Duke University and Wuhan University, but it also extends to our collaboration with each other as 3 co-directors. Both Emannuelle and Zhang Xin and I have 3 separate fields, but we found that we overlap when it comes to talking about hybridity and third space, study abroad, and also helping students expand their awareness as they travel and study abroad. A little bit about our HRC lab grant. The Humanities Research Center, the HRC, is a long-standing tradition at Duke University. And now at collaboration with Duke Kunshan University, we also have this long-standing tradition starting at Duke Kunshan University as well. If my understanding is correct, we are now in the 2nd or 3rd year of the HRC lab grants at Duke Kunshan University. And we were the first out of the Language and Culture Center to be awarded this lab grant. And so we're carrying on the tradition of helping students in expanding their awareness. And our design is out of an interventionist paradigm. We've developed workshops that support awareness and engagement with global education. And in light of the pandemic, which is part of our talk today, in light of the pandemic, we transitioned these workshops from what would have been a face-to-face engagement to an online engagement.
So what are the Third Space Lab goals or mission? So basically we had, these goals were twofold. The first one was to develop our scholarly agenda as pre-researchers, junior faculty. And so we wanted to merge our fields and get a better understanding of our fields through different lenses. And then the second one, as Saghar just mentioned, is this long-standing impact. So we wanted to have a long-standing make a long-standing contribution on students. And so because of that, we were trying to basically improve the student experiences before, during, and after their international education, or before, during, and after their semester abroad. So we mentioned earlier that DKU and Duke are connected with each other. And so students in their third year actually spend a semester at Duke. So they spend 4 years at DKU, but 1 semester at Duke. And so we wanted to support them in these efforts. And so because of that, we wanted to involve undergraduate students in research efforts through the lab, but also connect these students with each other and with people from different cultures. And finally, to connect these students with academic concepts and ideas. So how are we achieving this goal in the Third Space Lab? We're doing that in 3 ways. First, pedagogically, then scholarly, and finally, socially. We're doing that through workshops, pedagogically. So we prepared workshops that were supposed to be delivered face-to-face, but because of the pandemic, obviously this did not happen. And so we had to move online and prepare these workshops online. So the goal here is basically to prepare students before joining DKU or before studying abroad at Duke for the semester abroad. So we're trying to provide tools for them to think about their international and intercultural experiences. So some of these workshops here are, I'm just going to talk about these workshops very briefly. So one of them is called Reflecting Abroad, and it's teaching students how to reflect. Basically, what is a good reflection, what makes a good reflection, and how to support these reflections. Then another one is mapping your study abroad, to think about where you can, which spaces you enter and why, and which spaces you do not enter and why, and basically recording your experience abroad. Another one is conflict resolution, so having helping students and supporting them with ways of interacting interculturally and solving or not intercultural issues, intercultural conflicts. Another one is navigating the third space, how to become someone in another culture, and to provide students with tools to think about their identity in the second, this third space and in their third language or second language or fourth language. Another one is my third space story. So equipping students with ways to tell their story instead of shoeboxing it as they return. And then another one is creating your own research project abroad, which deals with helping students understand that there are many, many areas of the host culture that they do not know about and that they need to investigate to learn more about this host culture or these host cultures. It goes back to my story about religion in Oklahoma, for example. And so now we're going to move on to the scholarly, which Xin is going.
Thank you, Emma. So the scholarly inquiry of the lab, which focused on how identities are negotiated and co-constructed through narratives as people engage in transformation and conflicts in multicultural and multilingual spaces. This was also carried out virtually among the 3 of us as both co-directors of the lab and research collaborators across several ongoing research projects. As you can see in the slides showing here, our projects center on transformative learning, conflict resolution, and third space persona development in global education and also professional contexts. We also recruited 6 undergraduate students at Duke University as research assistants who were highly involved in these projects since April 2020, when actually the 3 co-directors, we were located in 3 different time zones as we are currently as well. But via Zoom, we were able to interview and recruit these undergraduate students who were and are still in 4 different countries: China, US, New Zealand, and Morocco. We trained them on theories and research methodologies by assigning readings, Coursera courses, and discussion via multiple Zoom conferences. And it has been our aim to really involve all of them in every step of the projects, fine-tuning the survey, recruiting subjects, conducting interviews, and transcribing the data under the supervision of the PIs. And all of these were conducted via online platforms that supported distance collaborations such as Zoom, Google Drive, Doodle, Qualtrics, Box, etc. And we were, some of these tools we were already planning on using before the pandemic, like Qualtrics for distributing and survey and collecting responses, but the pandemic has forced us really to try out and embrace other tools that turn out to benefit the research in unexpected ways. For example, one of them being Zoom and its audio transcription function. It has really saved us a lot of time and perhaps money for transcribing interview data. And now I would turn to Saghar to talk about the social engagement of the lab.
Absolutely. Thank you, Xin. We also wanted to support colloquia within our lab and understanding that the social experience is a really important experience for our students. Many of them may not have the opportunity or access to engage with experts in their fields. And we also wanted to just kind of bring this to them. And even though we couldn't have people on campus and we were displaced, our students were displaced, we still moved forward and hosted Zoom plenary talks for our students. Our first speaker was Dr. Darla Deerdorf, and her talk was on developing habits for an intercultural lifestyle. And it was heavily attended. I believe we had over 90 attendees, including students and faculty and just other people on campus who wanted to participate. It was a very engaging experience for our students. And our lab also supported another guest speaker, and this was Dr. Joanna Almeida. And she spoke about her book, International Education. And the title of her talk was International Education, Can Intercultural Journeys Have a Transformative Role in Life? And that was also heavily attended. I believe there were over 88 participants, if not more, for that particular talk. And just a correction, I know that that was the title of her talk, not the title of her book. But we're looking forward to having more guest speakers. We have a few in the queue. And it's just a matter of, we have some people on campus in China, not on campus, but in China that can come on campus. But it's a matter of scheduling and the constant unfolding of the pandemic, just to organize and see who we can get on campus.
So now, reflecting on the virtual adaptation of the Third Space Lab, we came up with 3 lessons learned in these past few months, and we'd like to share with all of you. First, adapt and be flexible. Embrace the challenges and seek for opportunities, or as other people call it, silver lining, brought by the pandemic. And its consequences on mobility. We had to make quick decisions to change the format of the study abroad workshops, the delivery of the guest lectures, and also the way we collaborated with each other and RAs to conduct research to an online format. We also made a major revision to our study because the study abroad program at Duke was postponed due to the pandemic. At the same time, the online adaptation made it possible to engage guest speakers and research subjects and audiences to whom we might not be able to reach without a much longer planning and logistical preparation. And then the second lesson is to manage your expectations and be strategic with your time investment. Something you think are going to be successful online might still flop. And that come directly from our experiences. And one difficulty we encountered actually was eliciting some online participations in a campaign we launched this past summer. We asked DKU students, faculty, and staff to submit their own third space stories in an artistic forms. The 3 of us were very excited about the project. However, the actual submission was scarce. We realized that this actually has to do with the third lesson here, that is to be aware of the saturation with online environment. Back in the summer, actually we're in touch with a potential guest speaker, inviting him to give an online guest lecture. He responded that he would actually be much more interested in an in-person visit, if that is possible at all. Like a lot of teachers, he was feeling a little bit tired of the screen format and would prefer the traditional lectures and personal meetings. I think we can all relate to this sentiment, especially after months of social distancing, sitting in front of the electronic devices as our main modes of working, studying, and interacting with each other. Would you not agree with this, Emma?
I would. So thank you, Xin. So the Third Space Lab really wants to support students in their perspective transformation. But we encountered a lot of obstacles, obviously, during the pandemic. But remember, we have this tendency to inflate intercultural competence. our intercultural competence, like I mentioned earlier. And so we also have a tendency to inflate our ability to do things in an online environment. It is taxing, and yet we have a tendency to overcommit. So now that we know that, we hope that you all will perhaps slow down on these commitments during this very special time. Thank you very much.